Hey, when you hold crazy beliefs in one thing, you might as well hold crazy beliefs in lots of things. This time out, we get a professional psychic who wants people to think God is real too. Is she nuts? Well, you'll just have to keep watching to find out. Usually, I don't talk about non-religious and non-political crazy beliefs around here. Not that I can't, not that they're not just as laughable as the insane babbling done by the religious, but because there are plenty of others out there that are debunking those, and it kind of falls outside of my typical targets. But when the insanity gravitational force draws these things together, I might as well take a look, at least at part of the video, because it's every bit as intellectually empty and critically cringy as the religious apologists. So, let's go take a gander.
Hi everybody, hope you're doing good today. Today I wanted to answer a question that somebody had asked, and I thought it was a great question. And the question is from Delana, and her question is, have you ever asked a spirit if God exists?
Because hey, if being completely insane, believing in psychics isn't enough, you might as well go for the full Monty and believe in religion too. It should come as no surprise, but when it comes to the world of psychics and other mentalist shysters, religion is a huge component. Many psychics claim that God gave them their amazing gifts that they somehow can't demonstrate under controlled conditions, but gifts nonetheless. So, you will often see psychics trying to spin their stories to include religion and spirits and all kinds of bizarre supernatural nonsense. Because I guess it helps them con the rubes.
Love it. Great question. Thank you. Many times I will get loved ones as I'm doing a reading that will come through. Not all the time, but periodically. And it's very interesting because the loved one will say, tell my mom that there's God.
But only if the mother gives any sign via cold reading that that's the answer she expects. Because you have to remember that this is all a game. Psychics are after your money and will say anything they can to get it. And they engage in underhanded techniques designed to separate you from your hard-earned cash, of which calls to religion are but a single example. These are comforting con men, and Susan here is no different. Her YouTube channel is all about convincing people to give her money. It's a giant ad for her so-called services, and frankly, no one ought to be impressed, but unfortunately, a lot of people are. Not smart people, of course, but gullible, stupid, ignorant people. And a call to religion just reinforces that.
And they just look and they'll cry, or it means something even more.
Of course it does, because making that statement is intended to elicit an emotional response. Now, if the person you were talking to was an avowed atheist, you'd never say that. Why? Because you wouldn't get the reaction that you want. So religion becomes part of your shtick because the majority of the population is religious to some degree or another. It's a safe bet that because most people who would go to a psychic are religious, playing the religious card goes well. It's a well-known fact that the more that someone falls for one line of woo, the more likely it is that they will fall for others, and psychics take advantage of that.
One time I had done a reading with a woman whose brother had passed, and he came through beautifully. And I says, I keep seeing bacon and eggs, and I keep seeing breakfast is very important. She says, I used to cook breakfast for him every Sunday. I said, okay, well, there you go. He's confirming that. So this is your brother, because he's talking about the great breakfasts and the talks that you had. And then I started to talk about other things, and she goes, what else does he have to say? I said, he wants you to know that there's God.
Well, that kind of came out of the blue, didn't it? Bacon and eggs to theology in one go. I guess breakfast is the meal of theists or something, I don't know. I'm sure this woman was wearing a cross or some other religious paraphernalia too, which is why she immediately leapt to this religious message. These things don't happen in a vacuum.
And she looked at me. She just flat out looked at me like with this sheer shock. And she goes, really? And I says, yeah, that's what he's saying. And I had no idea why he was saying it, but he wanted her to know that. And she said, my brother was an atheist.
But the person paying for the reading wasn't. How do I know? Because it would be a rare atheist that would go to a psychic wanting to talk to a dead relative. You have to remember, this isn't about the dead, it's about the living. The gullible, emotionally frail living with a bank account so they can pay for these absurd services. And people like Susan here are taking advantage of them. Keep that in mind.
So I find it so hard that he's saying that. I says, look, I don't know you and I don't know your brother, but I do know what he's saying, and he wants you to know that there's God.
When caught in a lie, feign ignorance and try to move on. I mean, what else is she supposed to say in that situation? Oops, I got my wires crossed? I'm getting psychic static. Maybe I heard him wrong. Maybe he wants to tell you that there's gold. You know, the streets are made of gold. That must have been it. I mean, I've seen psychics try weirder things.
So maybe whatever he believed in earth is different now that he's crossed into that light.
Or maybe you're a crook trying to con some poor woman out of her money and are lying. But no, she wouldn't admit that, would she?
So this is a great question. I love this because, yes, the answer is I will periodically get loved ones that will confirm that there is God.
Well, even if anything she's saying was remotely true, which it isn't, they can't confirm anything. They can only give you their observations, which are not demonstrably or verifiably true. So even when you're a shyster, your rational faculties don't get any better. Hard to understand why.
Now, how do they see God? I don't know. It's different for everybody and everything. So I think God's just everywhere in any way you choose to see God. But the main answer that I'm more interested in is not how God appears, but that there is God.
Something that you're just taking the word of an unknown voice in your head for. I trust I don't have to explain why that's such a ridiculous notion, do I? I mean, even if I thought she was serious about any of this, which I don't, the very bizarre idea that hearing voices is somehow a valid way to reach conclusions, that's not something that survives intellectual muster, is it? It just means she's insane, and doing what the voices in your head tell you to do is never a good idea.
And that there is a big, big afterlife. And like I tell people all the time, we're nothing more than a pea in a pod. And it's very true. This is just a small little flicker of a fraction to what we're doing here. There is a lot more.
Sure it is. Now get out your credit card and send her money. I mean, this is really about all I have to say on this video, so I'm going to stop here. It's just more empty claims made to elicit emotional comfort from people who they want to give them money, which, if you think about it, is exactly what every single clergy member out there is doing. It's a con to make a buck. It's a lie to provide a good feeling so people will keep coming back and handing over their cash. And people are so stupid and gullible that they will do it without any evidence whatsoever that these people are at all credible because it makes them feel good. But is this a good thing to do? It reminds me of a discussion that I had with someone on Reddit a couple of days ago, where this guy was saying, people are going to believe whatever they believe, just leave them alone because it makes them feel good. No, I will leave them alone if and only if what they believe is actually demonstrably true and it doesn't harm anyone, which religious beliefs and beliefs in psychics inherently do. We have to have standards. Yes, I know that standards are a bad word these days, but without them, we fall apart. These standards have to be rational and they have to be workable, but we have to have them whether they make anyone feel good or not. Empty claims about psychic phenomena or religious miracles simply do not rise to the level of rational acceptability, and therefore they should be rejected by everyone. That they are not is downright pathetic, and it makes the believer look like an idiot. Not just the religious believer, but the believer in these psychic crazies. Because make no mistake, these are scams. They always have been, and they always will be. We have no evidence for the existence of gods, or ghosts, or psychic phenomena, or any of that nonsense. They don't exist, and so long as the evidence says they aren't real, no one ought to believe. If you do, you've got mental and critical thinking problems. Maybe you ought to knock that off.